What's up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? We always say it at the same time.
I know, you think we're part of a girl
and they don't know who to respond to.
They don't. Always me first. Welcome to Group Discussions. You are listening to Nikki Trends.
I'm Manny Oso.
And obviously, if you follow our podcast, Bubble Bath Stories, we're the host of that.
Yeah.
We decided to do a little something extra. It's actually a part of our show where we talk to other podcasters because we're not in this alone. We get frustrated. We also get excited about things, but also we want you guys to discover new podcasts.
Definitely.
And so we are so excited to have our group discussion with this podcaster. We are going to invite them into the room.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Nikki and Manny.
How are you?
I'm good.
All right, so introduce yourself. Tell us your podcast. Let's get this discussion going.
Of course. My name is Shehla, and I host the podcast I'm a Muslim and That's Okay. Been doing it 3 years now. I don't know how, but I'm here. Still here.
Well, 3 years is a super big deal.
Yeah, in podcasting, that's a long time because to keep it going and to keep going with ideas and to keep having ideas of things to talk about, it's hard to think of things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you pick your topics?
It's sometimes strange that sometimes the topics come to you like in a random situation. You'd be like, oh, I should maybe discuss certain issues. Like maybe it's in the news, like it could be mental health. You're like, maybe I should do it on that. It's one of those topics that has a universal appeal. It's not just a Muslim problem. It's a Muslim, non-Muslim problem. Everybody can relate to it. Sometimes it's like that. Other times, especially now when I'm a little more established, people reach out to you. I had 2 authors reach out to me. One of them was, and it still is, the very first Muslim plus size, international plus size model. She wrote a book, and her book is actually a dystopian novel. So it's it's a really interesting mix. And I interviewed her, and then the other time, another Muslim author reached out to me. She is the foremost expert on Muslim representation in the media. That's my jam. So yeah.
Is that who you just had? Because you just had somebody on. I was listening to your latest episode.
Right. So that was Evelyn Al-Sultani. Yes, she is the foremost expert on Muslim representation in the media.
I really enjoyed how you guys were talking about Aladdin.
Yeah.
And representation in that way. I mean, I never even thought about how bad the song at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. It's not just the song. There's lots of little details that other people might not find sticking, but for Muslims, it's a tricky thing.
What are some of the other little things? What are some of the other little things?
Well, I mean, so many different things in Aladdin, especially like when they show, especially like when Aladdin picks up the apple and he grabs her arm and tries to cut off her hand. That technically is not how any of this works. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty harsh.
I thought it was pretty interesting how you guys brought up, and I never thought about it as a kid, but how you guys brought up that the only 2 Americanized voices were Jack and Aladdin.
Right.
And it really made me sit there and think like, oh my God, I never even thought about that, because it happens with all the ethnic style cartoons.
Right.
Yeah.
Pocahontas sounds like an American.
Yes.
Yeah. And Pocahontas, like, don't get me started on. I'm an animation nerd, okay? Oh yeah, I love animation, and Pocahontas on many levels is just terrible.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, yeah. Little John Smith thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. And when you compare it to the real story, you're like, yeah, no, this ain't gonna fly. This is not like Cinderella.
What do you think about, I guess, since we're on the topic of animation and representation, do you feel like Disney's course corrected with like the latest movies that they have come out with?
So here's the thing. I think they're definitely doing much better, but the key is that they now have a more diverse group of people working on their movies.
Yes.
For like Coco. I love Coco. My kids love Coco, and it's because when you like see the list of credits, it's not just a group of white dudes making an
Yeah,
animation. That's always a
absolutely.
bad idea.
Yeah, we hysterically crying.
So they're definitely doing better. But at this point, it's not never a process that will ever end because you have to like undo so much damage from the previous years. And yeah, the thing is, the fact is that they still have a lot of the old classics up on their channel.
Yeah.
And I see why they do it, but I'm like, I don't need it anymore. And I've never shown any of the Disney classics to my kids because they're very problematic, except for Mulan. I think that's the only one I've ever let them watch. And even now, when I said, I was like, okay, this is not how I remembered it, so we might have to move on. So I think the oldest one I'm going to let them see is Big Hero 6. I like that one. We're gonna leave Big Hero 6. Yes.
Even though it's all about white people, Meet the Robinsons is a pretty good movie. Has there been like anything as far as mainstream films that you think are definitely they represented things the right way?
Oh, mainstream films. Oh, that's a tough one.
Or TV shows like
Yeah.
I
Remy.
think I actually have never seen Rami because again, and this is like full disclaimer. I think I'm just like an old grandma. By the time it's 9 o'clock, I'm ready for bed now. But the thing is, I think the most excited we were was for Miss Marvel, and Miss Marvel is absolutely fantastic. If
Yeah.
you had to see a show with so much nuance that is entertaining, but when I'm from Pakistani background, and when we saw it, it sparks something in us. It is very very accurate in how it represents a lot of family dynamics, a lot of the toxicity that goes inside. I mean, and that's the thing. When you're from an immigrant background, that toxicity is sort of like a thing. It's like, but the thing is, they're trying to really undo past trauma while having an adventure at the same time. And it does it very well. If I had to recommend one, especially that has Muslim representation, that one is definitely top of my list. And
Oh,
for
yeah.
the other ones that I've heard of, We Are Lady Parts, I've heard a lot of good things about that. I've not personally seen
I've
it
actually
myself.
heard good things about that too. I haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah, so again, one of those days when I get like 2 minutes to sit down and actually, well, haven't even watched Wednesday. I started it, and then my kids come barging in, and it's like they're not gonna let you watch anything.
How old are your kids?
7 and no, not 9 and 12.
Wow. How do they feel about their mom having a podcast?
They don't care. It's like Robert Downey, not Robert Downey Jr., who plays Iron Man. I'm so bad at this. Robert Downey Jr. It's like his kid doesn't care that he's Iron Man. He's a fan of a Captain America. That's how it is. They don't care.
What about the rest of your family? Because, like, I'll be honest, whenever I hear people talk about who's listening, I feel like it's harder to get your family and friends to listen. Did your family listen?
No. Because I think with especially with the kids, they're like, don't we hear you enough? Do we have to hear you in like another format too? And the thing is, a lot of the content for my podcast can be heavy. And for kids, I don't expect them to be able to really appreciate what the kind of messaging. It's important. Some topics are important for them to learn about, but it can get heavy. Mental health is heavy. I've covered a lot of things in my podcast that it might not be either appropriate or it'd be too heavy for kids to learn from. My general audience are non-Muslims and Muslim adults that they can sort of get different perspectives, plus maybe a learning moment in between that.
That's awesome.
So you have as far as you know, you have a lot of non-Muslim people listening too?
They're my primary audience.
Wow.
And yeah. And that's how I started my podcast. This is not made for Muslims, actually. If you like go through all of my episodes, it's basically a breakdown about the Muslim experience in the US. That not just, the bad parts about it, but how we exist in our day-to-day life. A lot of people are curious. I have my yearly Ask a Muslim segment in which I bring in questions from all non-Muslims, and uh, any sort of questions they ask about, what we wear, what we eat, how do we, reconcile different things. And I answer like everyday questions. I don't answer scholarly questions because I'm not like really educated in that. I just answer the everyday. Like I've had questions like, "Do you wear the hijab in the shower?" I'd be like, "No, I don't." I've had that question come up. It does happen.
My follow-up question was going to be, what's the most ridiculous question? I'm assuming that's it.
Yeah. So, the other one was, do Muslims tan? And I sort of like, I was like, I don't know how to answer this question because it's like, yes, a lot of us do, and if you're a white Muslim, I guess you don't. So I don't know.
Are you asking if I have melanin?
Yeah.
Yes, humans have melanin. Next question.
Yeah, so it gets interesting, but that's the thing. I create a platform in which people are free to ask the questions that they might not generally be able to ask another Muslim. But I'm pretty open about a lot of things. I've had questions like, do Muslims wear lingerie? And that was an interesting one. I was like, yes. And we go into the explanation about, yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that we do, and there's a huge industry around it. So, I mean, yeah.
No, yeah, right. I mean, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, So let me ask you then. As far as you said, you've been doing this for 3 years.
Yep.
What would you say was the thing that really was the catalyst to get you to start doing I'm a Muslim and that's okay?
It was very random, and I give the story to everybody, but this was never on my radar because I never even liked my own voice. I never thought I'd be in front of a camera or on a mic because if you like what, especially the era I grew up in, if you recorded your voice on a tape recorder and heard it back, it sounds really weird. I always hated that. I was like, I don't think I could ever do this. I can't be in show business. But anyway, fast forward beginning of 2020. This was just before the pandemic hit. And I had a friend who is, she is disabled, but at that time she was also a trainer for other disabled people that she gave them physical therapy. So she did a fantastic job, and she was like, I want to start a podcast, but I'm not sure. Should I do it? I hate my voice. I was like, no, you've got to do it. And guess what? I'm going to do it with you. Like this was just my declaration to her. Like you have to do it because you do something important, and I'll do it with you. And that's sort of how it happened. I gave her that promise, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know why I did this, and I don't even have any expertise on anything. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give my expertise on the one thing I can, is like being Muslim, and that's sort of how it started out. And I was telling you guys before that I just started out with a lavalier mic in my walk-in closet because yeah, I had small kids. It was the pandemic; they were not gonna leave me alone.
we started recording in our bathroom in a small
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how bubble bath was started.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. And that's what people don't realize. It's not like a podcast doesn't start out in anything fancy. Actual indie podcasts start out in very small places. And if you know podcasters, a lot of them are doing it under the blanket. And you're trying to like muffle out all the sounds from the background that you have.
All the neighbors.
I mean, yeah, we were definitely talking. These podcasts that some people listen to that are the more mainstream ones really do take a team of 20 plus people.
Oh yeah.
Push it.
Oh
And
yeah.
And that's not even counting the media, social media aspect of it.
Mm.
It's just like a struggle for us on
For
love.
everybody.
Yeah.
Because you're two people, I'm one person.
Yeah.
And we're recording it, editing it. We
Yeah.
are trying to like fix whatever flubs are in there. Then we're releasing it. Then we've got to create the social media for it. Then it's got to get out in time. And you're hoping to God that it goes viral somehow, but it never does.
No.
Oh yeah, you'll put 17 hours of work into one thing, and nobody will scroll to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has ever happened to you. When we were starting out, there were times where we would have friends on, and they just didn't take it seriously? Like,
Yeah.
we're not a really heavy podcast. Like, we like to have fun. But I
Right.
remember we would record and just like the next, we would sleep on it and would delete a whole episode
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we were like, yeah, we're not heavy. We like to have fun, but like someone making random fart sounds or like not
Oh man.
what we're doing, that's not what we want out there anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So we would just delete episodes and start from scratch.
How
Right.
critical are you about your own show?
Well, I can be very particular, but I completely get the guest dilemma. I've had instances where I couldn't air episodes because they were sitting outside and there was lawnmowers all around, and I can't air this episode. It's a fantastic discussion, but and you hate to have them redo it, really, because they're like, why can't I use this? Because they don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
my audience can't understand half the stuff or the internet's not working. That's the other
Yeah.
classic one. So
We've definitely had situations like that, and
Mhm.
having to redo it, it almost takes the sting out of it. Like you don't
Right.
even want to
Yeah, 'cause
No, no.
Saying
right.
you can't
Yeah.
say a great conversation.
That's the thing. The first time, a lot of the times, you have the most chemistry. The second time is just a weird redo.
Yeah. Because none of us are actors, we're all podcasters.
Yeah.
We can't pretend like we're just now had this conversation.
Well, something
Yeah.
else that I've noticed too is that if you, from the outside in, if you're not making money, they just don't understand why you just can't release it. And you're just
No.
like, bruh, because like I don't want to send out crappy stuff into the universe, regardless
And
of
that's
my money.
that's the other thing people don't understand. I don't know about y'all, but I've made exactly $0 off of this. $0. There's no money coming in. Okay. I have thrown in so much money. It is absolutely ridiculous.
I think we've made $12 on Anchor, but
Yeah.
we have not figured out how to get that money.
Oh my God. At least it's there.
Yeah, actually, it's $68. We're basically enterprise. Okay.
Yeah. But we haven't had access to that money yet.
No. I'm sure
Wow.
there's an easy way, but I'm afraid to take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that drew me to your show was the name of it. Because
Right.
I was like, yeah, why wouldn't it be okay? Like, how did
You'd
you
be surprised.
name?
You'd be surprised, actually. It's the name sort of was. It's like a funny take on the fact that a lot of like we're here, okay, and we're just going about our merry way, shopping, picking up kids from school, doing the same thing everybody is, but being somebody, especially who is visibly Muslim, you get side-eyed a lot.
I'm sure.
And you're just like, but I'm just here, I'm existing, I'm most likely also on a Starbucks run at some point in my day as well. So I was like, it's long, but it's okay, I like it. It's like it makes people think twice. And the thing is, but even with that, I've been trying to register my podcast as a business. You'd be surprised how many people have issues with just the fact that the name is openly being proud of being Muslim. Yeah, so I have actually two businesses. I do graphic design, and that's my money maker. And I registered that business pretty easily. There was no like problems whatsoever. I've had to go through this twice and rejected twice for random reasons, and I'm suspecting it's like somebody in Texas don't like this.
Yeah.
Wow. Did they ever give you reasons why?
The reason is that the first reason was that, and that's the weirdest thing. Like I signed my name without my middle name. I've always done that, but I do have a middle name, and it didn't give me problems the first time when I was registering my graphic design business. Second time, you must have your middle name in your signature, otherwise, and that's why it was rejected the first time. Yeah, and then I was like, fine, I'll do it again. I'll send it over, whatever. Second time, you cannot have parentheses in your name. It is not allowed. I'm like, y'all can tell me this the first time. Like, so I'm like, geez Louise. And, so that's the thing. I've had like weird random reasoning for why I can't register it as it is. So I'm still in the process of like trying to keep pushing this forward. But again, it's sort of been pushed to the background because life, but I'm going to keep trying.
Of course, yes, please. I actually love the title.
No, I think it's a very unique one.
That's what really, I was like, once I saw the title, I was like, we have to have this person on this show.
I mean, honestly, the title kind of grabs you because let's be honest, we're in America, so and you've had the issue with the copyright thing right there. Right. So there are obviously people out there in the world who are just ignorant, but I feel like a title like yours kind of puts a little bit of pressure on a person to listen to it, because it's like, well, why aren't you going to listen to this, bro? It says it's okay.
Or you could spin it around. Are you not going to listen to it? Are you racist?
It's like if I don't press it, then am I
racist? The red button, the red button meme.
What's inside? Have you had negativity though because of the type
you do get some. It's actually very few and far between. I've been blessed that way, but in certain episodes, especially, I have like. If you had to say 2 separate platforms, I'd also do some exclusively YouTube segments as well. One of them is the Muslim experience. And I had like a very unsettling experience in TSA when we were coming back from Iceland. And on that, I had experienced some really strange, me and my son had experienced some really strange and very unsettling scrutiny when we were in the airport of Iceland. And I related that just so people can get a sense of how this is still such a prevalent problem, and that Muslims have, especially of my age, we went through what happened at the aftermath of 9/11. So we have PTSD associated with it. And somebody commented that y'all deserve it, basically. So, yeah. So you get all kinds of people. But for me, I'm like, block, delete. That's your
period.
Yes.
Have you during the podcast, have you seen people maybe like stand up, like say something as far as support towards Muslim people more?
Most definitely. And that's what I consider the blessing of it, is it's that there is definitely more people with greater understanding, just because I have the platform and I've had different people DM me with different questions. And when they have somebody to ask their particular questions, just because they wish to know more, it gives people a better understanding. That's true for any person, not just Muslims. Any person that is a minority or has a distinct disadvantage in society. If people are willing to reach out and get the answers. And I mean, there is a nuance to this. I'm not saying that especially people who are racial minorities who are traditionally oppressed have the job of educating. That's not my point. But it is a place where they know that it's safe to learn. So I do have people who do, whenever I post, they come in support of what I'm trying to do. And it's very heartening. I mean, it's been a great experience overall.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm Puerto Rican. I don't really have a religion, if I'm being honest, because I believe in a higher power, but there's something about organized religion that I've never really connected with.
Right.
So for you, I mean, what do you love most about being Muslim? What's the thing that you're just like, I love being a part of this. I love the community, the village. What is that for you?
So here's the thing. And I'll put the asterisks on. I probably am the most non-traditional Muslim you'll ever encounter.
Right.
I'm the crazy you know what in the room. Like, for real, I am the crazy you know what in the room. And for me, it's less about like the organized religion. Um, I feel my connection to my faith at an individual level.
Okay.
And I love practicing that accordingly. So for me, the communal thing matters less. I'm not saying that, I don't go to like the masjids and community events, but for me, that's not the important part about this. So far, like for me, it's been a journey of learning and then relearning. A lot of times when you grow up in the very traditional, like religious setting. You go to a masjid, you go do certain things. You're not sure why you're doing it, but you're doing it because your mom and dad tell you to do it.
Right.
That's how we grow up,
Yeah.
right? But when you're bigger, especially for me, after I had kids, you have to really rethink the why. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle with religion. I'm not saying right or wrong at all. I have definitely lots of friends who are atheist, agnostic, Wiccan, you name it. Probably have a friend that is that. And for me, when I was relearning, I still wish to be on the path of being Muslim, but I was just going to do it in a very different way. That's all.
That's awesome.
I mean, I gotta be. I have maybe two friends that I can think of that are practicing Muslim, and
Mhm.
the thing that I feel being Muslim is probably one of the hardest things as far as the practice and the
Mm.
discipline that it takes to really be one.
I
I
think,
grew up Catholic, and
right.
you can mess up all the time and just ask for forgiveness. But like the Muslim people I know, like the type of discipline they have, it's really admirable. I don't think I could do
Ah, no, thank you so much. It's just that here's the thing. I think we mess up a lot. It's just that especially when it comes to practices, when we have our prayer, our fasting, if I've been doing it ever since we were little, we don't feel it as much because we've been doing it for so
Yeah.
long. I have great admiration for those who convert to Islam and then they have to do fasting and prayer. It's much harder for them. And as for, forgiveness, especially in our Islam, forgiveness is the door is always eternally open. I think for us, and that's the thing, we just hope that we're not doing the same mistake over and over and over again, because then you're like, are you really sorry? Sort
Yeah.
of situation.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Is it so you say you have friends of all different creeds.
Oh yeah.
Is it tough to go out and experience life with people or
Um, and I should have like prefaced that is like I have mostly online friends. Okay, so we're not meeting in real life, but that's the fantastic thing about having online friends, especially if even if we believe differently,
yeah.
we never let that bother our personal interactions with each other. If they put up like anything that, especially if they're atheists, if they put on anything that may be anti-religion, I'm not going to start a fight with them. I
Yeah.
really am not. Because I understand where they come from. And I know many people who have experienced religious trauma that the way they are comes from a very specific place. It's not necessarily religion. It is because a lot of people practicing religion are pretty terrible. And I'm going to say that flat out. Okay. They're pretty terrible. So if they've experienced religious trauma and they're mad and they have opinions about God and faith, I get where they come from.
Yeah.
It's our fault, basically.
Mhm.
So we got to do better if we want people to really turn to whatever higher power they wish to believe in. So that's where I stand. And if anybody is Wiccan and are spiritual, all of these things, they may be different from my practices, but I'm sitting there like, what exactly is a Mercury retrograde? Does it affect how my kids are behaving right now?
I too struggle with trying to figure out what it means. I just know it's bad.
Yeah.
I just know it's bad.
Yeah, I never understood. We come across as astrological people a lot of times too. And I
Right.
don't get the moon stuff. I'm always like, isn't that description the same as the description for a Capricorn though? Like,
And again, the thing is, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. it's just you're learning something. I see it as a learning experience. I really do. It was like, oh, I didn't know that this is how people really connect with a higher power, because they are also connecting with a higher power. It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I did not know this. Like healing crystals and all of these things. Like, that's very interesting.
It is interesting. So you started your podcast 3 years ago.
Mhm.
We like to ask people this because it's a fun question. Who would be your dream person to interview?
Oh man. And this is one of those things, again, heavy topic. And I've been desperately looking for somebody to really guest on this, because again, as a person of color, a minority, and coming from a country that's been heavily colonized and the impact of colonization, I am looking for somebody who's an expert on colonial history and the impact it has had on, the whole colonized mindset, how it sort of began, and how it led to colorism, discrimination, all of these things. Right now, that's my ideal guess, because it impacts so many things in our everyday
Right.
existences. I mean, again, people who have not been colonized don't understand this, but
Yes.
again, I come from a country that was colonized, and I see it. I see the damage it does, and even when we're here, the damage is still there. So I'm like, I need somebody who can help deconstruct this on the show, so it's an education resource.
I think experts are like the toughest to really get a hold of because
Right.
it's so easy to say. Like we had maybe last year we were talking about something that had to do. I forget the subject, but we were looking for a scientist
Right.
to
Oh
come and
yeah,
talk on our show, right?
it was when the rover on Mars.
Yeah, but
Ah,
but once you get down to picking out an expert, it turns out everybody has their own field,
yeah.
and nobody knows anything about the other field.
Right, right.
It's
Finding a
also,
scientist to talk to you is
It's
really hard.
hard. Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I actually found one African American woman who I think she kind of led the mission. She was a rocket scientist who made her own barbecue sauce. I love telling people this story. And like, just great. We were talking for at least an hour. We didn't even do the show with her. We were just like, doing
Right.
a interview. And her bosses wouldn't let her do the show.
Oh my god.
At first, we were so flattered because
Yeah.
thank you for thinking we're a big deal. But also, what the hell?
Yeah, she had to get it
Oh
clear.
man.
Had to clear her to do the show.
So
Yeah.
she's definitely the one that got away. I love telling that story. I was like, a black rocket scientist woman who makes her
Man,
own
that is
barbecue sauce.
yeah.
You don't want us to win.
There was this other time I did land he was an expert in
It was like Ant-Man science.
So the whole
Quantum
concept was
physics.
we were
That's what we're
talking.
going for.
I
Quantum
was
physics.
doing an episode where we were going over different Marvel movies.
Right.
And so when the episode came up where we wanted to talk about Ant-Man and all the different scientific stuff that they talk about, the guy that I got on first told me on the initial interview, oh yeah, I love Marvel movies. I watch them all the time. We talk about this stuff with my friends all the time. When we actually started recording with him, all he was doing was bashing fans about how I can't believe they believe this kind of stuff.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my guy, we're not talking about that.
Ah.
Why are you on the show? Like, if you're just gonna talk bad about us.
Yes, he was very upset for weeks.
Yeah, I didn't even release the episode because
You
that's how
can't. I feel that. I completely feel that. It's just
it's like
like
so hard to find an expert, and then when you do find one, you gotta make sure that they clear. And then if they
Right.
clear the episode, you gotta make sure that they're not just an asshole about it.
Yeah. That is a hard. I mean, it shouldn't be a hard
It
like
shouldn't
thing
be.
to find, but yeah, it is.
That's why
It
we don't
can
do
be.
experts anymore. We only have other podcasters. And
We're safe most of the time, but we're heavy talkers as well. We could go on and on.
entrepreneurs, no experts.
What has kept you podcasting for 3 years? They say a lot of the times indie podcasts don't make it past 6 months.
Yeah.
What has kept you going for 3 years?
I think because it's been such a huge learning experience for me, and a really interesting way to make connections. That's the thing. I told the story. It was a random beginning, but as I sort of got into it, I just couldn't keep having solo episodes about the Muslim experience. Then I started interviewing different people, and you get in so many perspectives that it goes from one perspective then to the next one to the next one. And I think the drive is not just to educate people about how Muslims are. It's just to educate people in general. I've done episodes on orphan cancers and the foster care system, all of these things that people really don't talk about a whole lot. And but they're important topics. So I'm just like continuously trying to learn more, and I've always loved learning, and I think that's what it is. The podcast is just not an informative thing. It's a tool for me to learn as well, and I that's what I value about it. That's why I've been doing it without making any money off of it.
Labor of love.
Yes, yes.
I know.
Do you have like a goal set in mind with it? Like would you wanna eventually do some kind of show or something that you think about, or is it just podcasting, just talking for you right now?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It's evolved,
Yeah.
definitely. It has evolved into just from just audio to audio and video with several different segments to
Mm.
it. I don't know what's going to happen next, but at the end of the day, I'm just hoping that it is beneficial to the people who listen to it. And that's not a whole lot. I'm going to be honest about this, okay? I ain't got a million listeners, subscribers, or whatever.
Not yet.
Well, if you did, we wouldn't have gotten you on.
I think this has been great. I mean,
this is
I
fun.
know you're busy. I'm sure your kids are calling you right now.
Well, there's quiet for now, and that's great. That's great. Okay, somebody could be barging into the door. It's happened. Trust me, it's happened during interviews. I'm like, oh my god, children.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I get you one of those the red lights
Yeah.
or the on air thing, so they know not to come in.
You know, children don't care, right?
They will read it.
They don't care.
I'm a hopeful being. What can I
What does this mean?
please let the people know where they can find you, where they can find your podcast and your YouTube channel.
Yay. So you can find me on every major podcasting platform. Just search up I'm a Muslim and That's Okay. Same thing for YouTube. You can just search up I'm a Muslim and That's Okay. My handle there is I'm a Muslim Podcast. But if you just search up the name, I'm the only one there on the internet, quite literally. And for my Instagram handle, it's the same one at I'm a Muslim Podcast. And yeah, please, like, to whomever who listens to my podcast, I love feedback. That's the thing. I think people are a little scared to give feedback, but I appreciate it. You know, what we can do better. That's what we're here for. That's what indie podcasts really exist on. How do we do this better?
We can't improve until we get the feedback.
Also,
Yeah.
we welcome trolls. I'm like, how have we not gotten trolled yet? I feel offended.
Like, I get entertained by this. Oh, what is your opinion?
I think it's because we're like inviting them. They're like, oh no, this is a trap. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we are going to be telling our viewers to make sure to listen to your podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I love having these discussions. Like, the frank discussions are the best.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much again, and we look forward to having you on this show once you reach like 1 million downloads and such.
You know, you can just reach out to me. I'm sort of humble. Okay, like, as podcasters, once you get a mic, you do get a bit of an ego. I'm sort of humble.
As long as you're not an expert, because then you won't have time for us.
I wish, like, but you know, the only experience I have is like being mom, being Muslims, and that's always a work in progress. There's no degrees for none of that.
No, you're welcome. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. We super appreciate it.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
You too.
That was so much fun.
That was fun.
I really hope that you guys listen to her podcast because it's not just the name that's catchy. The Q&A episodes are some of the ones that I listen to in research of the show.
She's had a lot of guests on there. You should definitely give it a shout.
And if you guys, trolls welcome. Like podcasters like trolls. I don't know why you're wasting your time on the people who aren't gonna at you. Okay?
I mean, if you're gonna sit there and talk any kind of opinion while it's playing, just type it out. Let us know.
Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, you can find group discussions exclusively on our YouTube page at Bubble Bath Stories. If you want to just hear our show and what we're up to, you can find Bubble Bath Stories on all major platforms. You can find us at Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook at Bubble Bath Stories.
You can find me at Got No Time for This.
And you can find me at Nikki Trends. And if you're looking to cop official merchandise and be a part of the gang, you can go to our website, bubblebathstories.co. Until next time, bye. Bye.
Bye.